My name is Tessa Randall. I'm 30 years old, and last weekend I watched my relationship of 2.5 years quietly collapse without a single fight, without a screaming match, without a dramatic public breakup. It started with a post, not from me, from my boyfriend. He posted on social media, "Why do women get so jealous when you have female friends?" He hit share, went about his day, and probably felt pretty proud of himself when the comments started rolling in. I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I didn't text him a wall of messages. I just opened my work laptop on Monday morning, went into my employee portal, scrolled down to emergency contact, and very calmly deleted his name. But I'm getting ahead of myself. "Hey everyone," I say into the camera, the tiny red recording light staring back at me. Before we get into today's story, I just want to say thank you. We hit 10,000 subscribers this week. There's a small celebratory balloon behind me, half deflated already, taped to my bookshelf. My apartment is quiet, a little too quiet, but it's mine. Only 16.4% of you watching are actually subscribed, I add with a faint smile. So if you like messy family dinners, relationship drama, and people discovering their boundaries much later than they should, hit that button. I pause, inhale, and let the smile fade. This story happened last weekend, I say, and I'm still trying to process how fast everything unraveled. I met Ethan 2.5 years ago. He was the easy kind of charming. Quick jokes, soft eyes, the kind of guy who remembers how you take your coffee after one date and never forgets it. A year into our relationship, he invited me to his parents for Sunday dinner. One dinner turned into two, then into a routine. Sunday evenings with Linda and Mark, his parents, and his sister Kate became a fixed point in my week. Linda would fuss over me, the way only a woman who has secretly already decided you're the one for her son can. Mark would ask about my job, remember details, send me articles during the week. Kate would drag me into the kitchen to gossip while we did dishes, whispering about office drama and bad dates. It felt safe. Like I'd finally stumbled into someone else's family and they'd looked up and said, "Oh, there you are. We've been saving you a chair." Then, 3 weeks ago, Ethan dropped it on me as casually as you'd mention a weather report. We were on my couch, Netflix logo bouncing on the screen, half-eaten pizza on the coffee table. He didn't even look away from his phone when he said it. "So, Rachel's organizing this camping trip," he said. "Old college friend group thing. I think I'm gonna go." Rachel. I felt that name more than I heard it. His ex-girlfriend. 3 years in college. The kind of history that has layers. "Camping trip?" I repeated, keeping my voice neutral. "Like tents and campfire camping?" "Yeah," he said, finally glancing at me, smiling like this was no big deal. "Just the old crew. We haven't all been together in forever. It'll be fun to reconnect." I stared at him for a beat longer. He didn't flinch, didn't add anything, didn't read my face. "Rachel is organizing it?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, shrugging. "She's the only one who's still in that town. She knows all the trails. Babe, it's not a big deal." To him, it wasn't. To me, it was a very big deal. Look, I'm not the type to forbid my partner from speaking to their ex. People have pasts. Lives overlap. Adults coexist. But a full weekend camping trip? With your ex, who is organizing everything? Tents, sleeping bags, alcohol, late nights around fires where people get nostalgic and stupid. It's not a neutral outing. It's an environment tailor-made for bad decisions. "I don't love that idea," I said finally, choosing my words slowly. "You going on a camping trip organized by your ex-girlfriend? Overnight, with drinking. That's a lot." Ethan sighed like I'd just told him he couldn't wear his favorite hoodie. "Tessa, she's ancient history," he said. "We broke up years ago. We're just friends now. You seriously don't trust me to go on a trip with my friends?" "It's not about trust," I replied, feeling my stomach tighten. "It's about boundaries. There's a difference between grabbing coffee with an ex and crawling into tents after midnight in the woods with them." "You're being insecure for no reason," he shot back. "I should be able to have female friends without you freaking out." "I'm not freaking out," I said quietly. "I'm telling you what I'm comfortable with in a committed relationship." We circled the same argument for days. I tried to explain that some environments are inherently intimate, that there are contexts where even if nothing technically happens, the line is blurry enough to hurt. He kept repeating the same refrain. "You should just trust me. You're trying to control who I hang out with. It's not healthy. You're acting jealous." By the end of the second day of back and forth, I felt less like a partner and more like a prosecutor. Every boundary I voiced was being turned into evidence of a character flaw. Jealous, controlling, insecure. Finally, I remember saying, if maintaining this friendship in this exact way is more important to you than respecting my boundaries, then maybe we're not looking for the same thing in a relationship. Ethan rolled his eyes. There it is, the ultimatum. I didn't answer, because for the first time I wondered if he was right, just not in the way he meant. Maybe it was an ultimatum. Respect my boundaries or accept the consequences. The post went up that Sunday afternoon. I was at my kitchen table, laptop open, editing another video. My phone buzzed with a notification from Ethan's account. I tapped it without thinking, and there it was. Why do women get so jealous when you have female friends? Controlling behavior disguised as concern is still controlling. Women should be able to have friendships without their partners throwing tantrums. He didn't tag me. He didn't have to. His friends flooded the comments within minutes. Preach. Women hate seeing you happy without them. Red flag behavior right there. If she trusts you, she won't care who you're with. They were talking about me, laughing at me, building this little chorus around a version of me that wasn't real. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. My cheeks burned, even though I was alone. I felt like I'd walked into a crowded restaurant and found my private arguments printed on the menu. For a split second, I imagined typing a response, something sharp, something that would lay everything out, show people the full picture, make them see I wasn't crazy or controlling. I even started it. Then I stopped. Because if I replied, I'd be playing his game, turning our relationship into a spectator sport. I locked my phone, set it face down on the table, and just sat there listening to the hum of my fridge. That was the moment it clicked for me. This wasn't just a disagreement about a trip. This was about how he handled conflict. About the fact that when he felt criticized, his instinct wasn't to talk to me. It was to perform for an audience. If he was comfortable humiliating me publicly over a boundary, what would he be comfortable doing when the stakes were higher? I didn't text him. I didn't call. When he came over that evening, he didn't even mention the post. Just kissed my forehead, flopped on the couch, and asked what we were watching. In that silence, I felt something in me switch off. Monday morning, I walked into my office, badge beeping at the turnstile like always. I set my bag down, turned on my computer, and sipped stale break room coffee while the screen booted up. My fingers moved almost on their own. Company portal, personal information, emergency contacts. Name, Ethan Collins, relationship, partner, phone, his number. I stared at it for a long time. An emergency contact is the person they call when something's gone terribly wrong. The person who shows up in the middle of the night, who advocates for you if you can't speak, who holds your hand in hospital gowns and fluorescent lights. And right then, staring at his name, all I could see was that post. All I could hear were his friends calling me insecure and controlling because he offered me up to them. I clicked remove. A warning popped up. Are you sure you want to delete this primary contact? I swallowed, then clicked yes. For a few seconds, the field was blank. Then I typed in a new name, my brother's. New number, new relationship label, new reality. When I hit save, the page refreshed, and Ethan's name was gone. He was still my boyfriend. We were still technically together. But on paper, in the places that mattered when life went sideways, I had already started leaving. By the time I closed my laptop on Monday morning, a strange calm had settled over me. Not peace, not relief. More like the clarity you get right before a storm, when the air goes still and you know something is about to break. I didn't text Ethan. He didn't text me. And in that silence, a question pulsed through me. If he could broadcast his frustrations to hundreds of people, why couldn't he talk to me? The answer didn't comfort me. After updating my emergency contact, I went further. Beneficiary information, medical power of attorney, in case of hospitalization contacts. Anything that implied he was the person who would rush to my side when something went wrong, I removed him. Every field I cleared felt like peeling back a layer of something I'd mistaken for safety. When I selected Remove as Beneficiary, a note popped up. Changes may affect next of kin notifications. I whispered, good, and confirmed the update. Because if I ended up in a hospital bed, the last person I wanted making decisions for me was someone who turned private conflict into public content. My phone buzzed. It was my brother. Jason, got your voicemail. Everything okay? You don't usually switch emergency contacts out of nowhere. I stared at the message. He deserved honesty, but not the whole story. Not yet. Me, I'm fine. Just realized some things needed updating. Jason, Tess, if you need me, say it. Me, I'll let you know. He didn't push further. Jason never did. But the fact that he asked made my throat tighten. Monday evening, Ethan came over like everything was normal. He let himself into my apartment the way he always did, dropped his backpack by the couch, and pulled out leftovers from the fridge like he lived there. "Babe," he said cheerfully, "Rachel found this insane hiking spot near the ridge. Says the sunrise is unreal." He said her name so casually, so easily, like she wasn't the axis around which our argument and his Instagram post spun. I looked at him over the rim of my glass. Ethan didn't look guilty, didn't seem conflicted. If anything, he seemed energized. Like the argument had been a spark, not a warning. I didn't mention the post. I didn't mention the emergency contact change. Instead, I watched him animatedly talk about tents, trail snacks, and how nostalgic it felt. It was surreal. The man who publicly mocked my concerns was now laughing in my kitchen as though the weekend ahead wasn't the very thing unraveling us. "Can you pass me the pepper?" he asked. I passed it, quietly, because sometimes silence is louder than screaming. By Tuesday, I knew I couldn't avoid the inevitable conversation. Ethan's parents had been part of my life for over a year. They deserved honesty, and they deserved not to be blindsided when I suddenly stopped showing up on Sundays. I dialed Linda during my lunch break. "Tessa, sweetheart, everything okay?" Her warmth made my chest ache. "Linda, I think I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to feel caught in the middle." Her voice softened immediately. "Tell me, dear." "I won't be coming to Sunday dinner this week," I said, steady but gentle. "Ethan and I are having significant relationship issues." She inhaled sharply. "Did something happen?" I explained carefully. No exaggeration, no accusations, just the truth. Ethan planning a weekend camping trip with his ex-girlfriend. My discomfort and how he dismissed it. The Instagram post that framed me as jealous and controlling. By the time I finished, Linda was quiet. Not angry, not defensive, just processing. "That doesn't sound like the Ethan we raised," she finally said. "I care about him," I replied, "but I can't be part of a relationship where my boundaries get mocked publicly." Linda exhaled shakily. "Thank you for telling me, Tessa. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this." Her voice cracked. Wednesday evening, I called Mark, Ethan's dad. He was more succinct, more analytical. "Let me make sure I understand," he said slowly. "You expressed concerns, and he chose to post about it publicly instead of discussing it privately?" "Yes." A hum of disappointment traveled through the phone. Mark wasn't the emotional type, but his disapproval was unmistakable. "You've always been reasonable, Tessa. If something bothered you, there was probably a good reason." I blinked hard. He meant it. He believed me. And for the first time since the Instagram post, I felt seen. And that hurt more than anything Ethan had done. By Thursday night, the trip was close. Too close. Ethan stood in my living room, stuffing a backpack with hiking clothes, power banks, trail mix, his old college sweatshirt, the one Rachel bought him during a fall festival years ago. He held it up, grinning. "Forgot how comfy this thing is." I felt something cold settle under my ribs. "Hey," he said suddenly, "you're sure you're okay with me going, right?" I looked at him for a long moment. This man genuinely thought nothing he had done required accountability. "You've made your decision, Ethan," I said softly. "I've made mine." He paused, confused, but only for a second. Then he smiled, as if my words were reassurance instead of warning. "Okay, good," he said. "Didn't want you stressing about it." He zipped his bag, and something zipped shut inside me too. Later that night, lying in bed beside him, I watched the moonlight trace the outline of his shoulders. He slept peacefully, like there wasn't a storm coming, like he hadn't lit the fuse. And I had a quiet, unsettling realization. People don't ruin relationships in one moment. They chip at them, piece by piece, until one day, the person on the other side finally steps away. And Ethan had chipped enough. Friday morning, he would leave for the woods with his ex-girlfriend, and I would begin leaving him. Friday morning arrived without ceremony. No dramatic goodbye, no lingering kiss, no sign that Ethan sensed the fracture widening between us. He just slung his backpack over his shoulder, kissed my cheek, and said, "I'll text you when we get there, babe." I nodded. I didn't tell him to have fun. I didn't tell him to be safe. Because he had already made his choice, and I was beginning to make mine. The door closed behind him with a soft thud. Somewhere deep inside me, something else closed too. At 3 p.m., he texted me. "Ethan, made it. Campsite looks amazing." Attached was a group photo. Everyone smiling. Everyone holding tents or gear. And there, standing just a little too close to him, was Rachel. Her hand wasn't touching him, but it hovered near his arm. That accidental, on-purpose proximity. Ethan was grinning in a way I hadn't seen in months. Not a bad grin, just carefree. Like he had stepped back into a world where I didn't exist. I didn't reply. At 9 p.m., and he called me. He sounded breathless, cheerful, and slightly drunk. "Hey," he said, dragging out the word. "We're cooking dinner over the fire. God, I miss this. You would love this place, Tess." That's all I said. He didn't notice the coldness. Or maybe he did, and thought the alcohol blurred it. "Wish you were here," he said with the lazy fondness of someone who wasn't actually thinking of me at all. "Have fun, Ethan." "Love you," he said. "Good night," I replied. It was the last peaceful moment of the weekend. Saturday. Silence. All day Saturday. No texts, no calls, no photos, no good morning, no signals bad, nothing. Silence. The kind of silence that isn't empty, the kind that's full of unspoken answers. I went about my day quietly, cleaned my apartment, made coffee, worked on a video script. But every now and then, I'd glance at my phone, sitting face up on the table like a small, silent witness. When someone wants to communicate with you, they do. When they don't, the silence is intentional. At 11:08 p.m., my phone lit up. Ethan calling. I let it ring out. 2 seconds after it ended, he called again. And again. And again. Within minutes, he had called 3 times. Then 5. Then 8. The vibration became this endless, anxious buzz against my nightstand. But I didn't touch the phone. Not because I wanted to punish him, but because for the first time he was feeling the absence he'd created. His panic escalated quickly. The calls came in bursts, then clusters, then floods. I turned the phone on silent, slid it under a pillow, climbed into bed, and stared at the ceiling. I didn't sleep well, but I didn't answer him either. When sunlight finally pushed through my blinds, I reached for my phone. 31 missed calls. 50+ text messages. The text told a story in phases. "Hey, everything okay?" "Tess, pick up." "Why are you ignoring me?" "This isn't funny." "Seriously, call me back." "Tessa, what the hell?" "I'm worried." "Are you okay? Please answer." "Fine, whatever." And then back to worried again. Not once did he say, "I'm sorry. I understand why you feel hurt. I shouldn't have gone." The messages were all about him, his panic, his discomfort, not about what he had done. By then, the decision was clear. I didn't call him back because I didn't owe him clarity he had never offered me. Instead, I got dressed, grabbed a container of banana bread Linda loved, and drove to Ethan's parents' house. When I walked up to their porch, Linda and Mark opened the door almost in unison. "Tessa?" Linda gasped. "Is everything all right? Where's Ethan?" "He's still camping," I said gently. They exchanged a look, a worried one. "Can we talk?" I asked. They nodded and ushered me inside. The house smelled like roast chicken and fresh herbs, the familiar warmth of a family that had let me in long before I realized how much I needed it. We sat at the dining table. My usual seat felt heavier that day. "I wanted to come today," I began, "because I won't be coming anymore." Linda's hand flew to her mouth. Mark straightened in his chair. I explained everything. The camping trip. His ex-girlfriend Rachel organizing it. Ethan dismissing my boundaries. His Instagram post calling me jealous and controlling. They listened silently. No interruptions. No excuses. When I finished, Linda's eyes were glassy. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. "You didn't deserve that." Mark nodded slowly. "You handle everything with honesty and respect. Public humiliation. That's not how you resolve conflict." Had Ethan been there, he would have argued, but his parents saw the truth immediately. We ate dinner together, our last one. Linda packed leftovers for me the way she always did, tucking a note into the container. "For later, you're loved." When I stood to leave, they each hugged me tightly. A real goodbye. A family goodbye. And that was when it hit me. I wasn't just losing Ethan. I was losing the family he didn't know how to cherish. At 6 p.m., I pulled into my parking lot. Before I even reached my door, my phone started buzzing again. "Ethan." This time I answered. His voice exploded through the speaker. "Where the hell have you been? I've been calling hospitals. I thought something happened to you." "I was having Sunday dinner with your parents," I said calmly. Silence. A long one. Without me?" I needed to explain to them why I won't be coming anymore. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you chose a camping trip with your ex over my boundaries, and then publicly called me controlling instead of talking to me privately." "Tess, nothing happened on the trip." "I'm sure it didn't." My voice didn't waver. "That's not the point." "Then why are you breaking up with me over a post?" "I'm breaking up with you," I said slowly, "because when we disagreed, you didn't talk to me. You mocked me online. You chose an audience over your partner." He didn't have a comeback, not one that mattered. because deep down he knew I was right. Breakups have a strange rhythm. At first, there's the sharp snap, the moment everything breaks clean. But the echo that follows? That's where the real unraveling happens. 3 days passed after I ended things with Ethan. 3 days of quiet mornings, long showers, and unanswered calls piling up on my phone like debris drifting to the surface after a shipwreck. I didn't block him. I didn't respond either. Some lessons require silence, not conversation. On Wednesday evening, my phone buzzed. Kate, Ethan's sister. Her name lighting up my screen made my stomach twist. Not from dread, but from the ache of missing the small, unexpected friendship we'd built. I answered, Tessa? Hey, I just wanted to check on you. Her voice cracked slightly. She wasn't calling out of loyalty to her brother. She was calling out of loyalty to me. I'm okay, I said softly. Or getting there. I figured, she sighed. Mom and Dad told me what happened. And for what it's worth, they think you did the right thing. I closed my eyes. That validation wasn't something I asked for, but it landed deeper than I expected. Ethan told them his side, she continued. But they already knew yours. They know he left out things. I stayed silent. Some truths don't need to be repeated. They just need to be acknowledged. Then Kate hesitated. There's more, she said, about the camping trip. Kate took a breath. So, apparently, Rachel spent the whole weekend trying to make moves on Ethan. My stomach didn't drop. I didn't gasp. Some part of me already knew. How do you know? I asked. Mutual friends, she said. People who were actually there. A week after the breakup, just when the quiet finally started to feel like peace instead of shock, there was a knock at my door. Not a light tap, not polite, a steady, determined knocking, the kind people use when they're trying to keep themselves from falling apart. When I opened the door, Ethan stood there, eyes tired, backpack slung over one shoulder, fingers tapping his thigh like he didn't know how to keep still. Tessa, can we talk? I stepped aside but didn't invite him in with words. He walked in anyway, the way people do when they're used to a home that no longer belongs to them. The second the door closed, the words spilled out. I know I screwed up, he said. I shouldn't have posted that. I shouldn't have gone on that trip. You were right. All of it. I get that now. His voice cracked on now. Not on sorry, not on hurt. On now, the moment when he felt the consequences. I'll delete the post, he rushed on. I'll apologize publicly. I'll tell everyone I was wrong. Just, can we fix this, please? I stared at him, searching his face for something genuine, something that sounded like accountability instead of desperation. You're apologizing, I said slowly, because you're uncomfortable, not because you understood my boundaries before the consequences landed on you. That's not fair, he whispered. Fair? I let out a soft, incredulous laugh. You publicly mocked me for expressing discomfort. You framed me as jealous. To your friends, to strangers, to your entire online audience. But when you felt uncomfortable with Rachel, suddenly boundaries mattered? His jaw clenched. He didn't deny it. I know I messed up. This wasn't one mistake, I cut in. This was a pattern. He blinked. Pattern? Yes, Ethan, a pattern. Let me remind you. I held up a finger. First, you dismissed my feelings. Instantly, without even trying to understand. Second finger. Then you reframed my boundary as jealousy. Third, you escalated it further by making a post that humiliated me. Fourth, you exposed our private conflict to the public for validation. His face reddened. Fifth, and then you only panicked when Rachel crossed your boundaries. Not mine. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked small, not because I wanted him to, but because he finally saw himself clearly. Tessa, everyone makes mistakes, he murmured. No, I replied. Everyone makes a mistake. You made choices over and over. When he asked for another chance, please, he whispered, voice breaking. Can't we try again, just once? My stomach twisted, not out of temptation, but empathy. I loved you, I said softly, but you didn't protect the relationship when it mattered. I thought we were stronger than this, he said. No, I corrected gently. You thought I would carry the weight of your actions without breaking. You thought I would always forgive you. A tear slipped down his cheek. I'm sorry, he whispered again. And for the first time, I believed he meant it. But sincerity doesn't always erase damage. Ethan, I said quietly, you didn't just hurt me. You showed me how you handle conflict. When things get difficult, you choose an audience over your partner. That's not who I want to be, he said desperately. Then change, I replied, for the next person, not for me. He flinched, but he didn't argue. Because deep down he knew the truth. The version of him who posted that message cannot coexist with the version of me who finally learned not to beg for respect. He left my apartment slowly that night, closing the door gently behind him. Not slamming, not storming, just accepting. Breakups have ripples. Some are gentle, some drown you. Ethan's came in waves. His dating life? Complicated. The story of the Instagram post traveled through mutual circles faster than wildfire. And suddenly, every woman he showed interest in knew him as the guy who humiliated his girlfriend online, the guy who dismissed boundaries, the guy who framed insecurity as control. Hard to build trust after that. Rachel, she tried pursuing him. Of course she did. But Ethan told Kate, it didn't feel right once I was actually single. Translation. He liked the attention when he had me. He didn't want her when it required real commitment. The universe has a sense of humor. His parents? Brutal honesty. Linda told him, you threw away a good relationship because you wanted validation from the wrong person. Mark added, public disrespect ends relationships faster than private disagreements. And for the first time, Ethan didn't argue. He just listened. Someone new came into my life. A man who communicates quietly, clearly, without performance. Someone who says, I disagree with you, but let's talk about it. Instead of, I disagree, so let me shame you online. When we have different perspectives, he leans in, not away. Talking to him feels like opening a window in a room I didn't realize was suffocating me. People think the hardest part of leaving someone is the door closing. It isn't. It's the moment you realize they were never protecting you the way you protected them. Ethan didn't lose me because of a camping trip. He lost me because he chose to perform for strangers instead of communicate with me. He wanted validation. He wanted freedom. He wanted to be right in the eyes of people who don't even know him. He got exactly what he wanted. Complete freedom to maintain whatever friendships he wants, just without me. And that's the part he never expected. Sometimes, I say in my closing voiceover for the video, the best response to public disrespect is private departure. Fade out. Then she told me everything. Rachel kept bringing up old memories. She kept touching Ethan's arm, shoulder, back. She insisted he help her set up her tent. She sat next to him every chance she got. She joked about missing the old days, when they shared a sleeping bag. And she absolutely tried to get him alone by the fire the second night. I could picture it perfectly. Rachel leaning in, smiling the way people smile when they want something that used to be theirs. What did Ethan do? I finally asked. Kate hesitated. He didn't stop her at first. And there it was, the heart of the wound. Not betrayal exactly, but ego, temptation, a lack of boundaries dressed up as harmless nostalgia. It wasn't until later, she continued, when he realized how bad it looked, that he freaked out and started calling you. The 31 missed calls weren't out of love, they were out of fear. Fear of consequences. Fear of being caught in something he didn't expect to escalate. Fear that the girl he took for granted might finally walk away. He tried calling Jason too, Kate added, said it was an emergency and asked for your number. I couldn't help the faint laugh that escaped. Jason told him, she continued, if it's a real emergency, call 911. My chest warmed with the strange blend of sadness and gratitude. Jason knew me better than Ethan ever had. Later that evening, as I sat on my couch with a blanket wrapped around me, I replayed everything in my mind. The trip, the silence, the frantic calls, the post, the defensiveness, the way he dismissed my boundaries until his ex crossed his. That was the truth that cracked everything open. He didn't respect my boundaries until his were threatened, and by then it was too late. He didn't call me because he realized he had hurt me. He called because the situation stopped being fun for him. It's easy to seek comfort from your partner when someone else has shaken your ego. But love isn't about turning to someone only when you're uncomfortable. It's about considering them before you get there. The next day, Linda texted me. Linda, Tessa, I hope you're taking care of yourself. I just want you to know we love you, and we're here if you ever need anything. I didn't cry when Ethan and I broke up, but I cried reading that text, because it confirmed something I'd been wrestling with since Sunday. I hadn't just walked away from Ethan. I had walked away from a family that had loved me well, something Ethan himself had never fully understood. Mark sent a message later. Mark, respect is the foundation of a relationship. Public disrespect destroys trust. I'm sorry you experienced that. I stared at those words long after the notification faded. Ethan had been trying to spin the story, painting me as dramatic, irrational, emotional. But his own family didn't buy it, and neither did I. By Friday, Ethan couldn't pretend everything was fine anymore. He sent a message. Ethan, can we talk, please? I know I messed up. It wasn't an apology, it was an entry point. an invitation for me to relieve his guilt. But some doors, once closed, don't open again. I didn't reply. Because if someone only realizes your worth when they fear losing you, they didn't value you to begin with.